Hey there, it's that coding guy here. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about full stack development. Folks new to this industry will encounter a lot of terminology, and some of it can be confusing because some of it's based on context, and the same word can be used in different contexts and mean different things. Fortunately, this one is pretty concrete. Everybody pretty much knows what a full stack developer is, but we'll talk a little bit about what a backend developer here is in a second. To understand what full stack development means, it's helpful to understand something called client-server architecture. Most of the websites that you use out there today are built using this architecture. Here's how it works. You're on a form on a web page. Let's call it a user profile. You're entering in your address information so you can get something shipped to you maybe. When you fill out that form and you hit submit, that form contacts an API. So the UI here, the user interface, the form that you're using, you hit that button, submit, it contacts the API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, which can also mean a lot of things. For this example, what it means is there's a computer server out there listening for requests like this one. And after the UI has validated that request, and you've seen this, right? The form that you're on and you hit submit, before anything happens, it'll check it over. And if you didn't enter a state in or something, it'll be like, you have to submit a state. And only after you hit submit, it fires off that request. Well, the API does the same thing typically. It will also look over all the information that you sent and validate it again. If it all looks good, it will contact the database and persist it. And a database is just another type of program out there that's running that's really good at storing, retrieving, and searching for data. So your address information gets stored in the database. Sweet. Why is that good though? Well, if you log out of that application on your computer and you go to the library and log into a computer, or you pull up that site on your phone, when you do and log in, it's just going to go back to the database and get that information. The value of that is that it's not actually storing any of that information on the computer that you used when you actually submitted the form. And that's a good thing. For the most part, that's how the web works. So, full stack developers then will work across all areas of this technology stack. They will create features on the user interface for users to use. Those features behind the scenes will contact the API to check things over and to actually persist things in the database. I kind of think of the API as a bouncer. It only lets things through that are good, and it just bounces back anything that's not good. And that's a very simplified way to think about it, but I think it's valid. So, and then you may also hear about a front-end developer or a back-end developer. Front-end developer is pretty concrete. You're working on the user interface stuff. Back-end developer can mean lots of different things. It could mean just someone working on the database and things like that, or it could mean someone who is working on the API and the database and how they work together. Mileage may vary on that one. So that's a bit about full stack development. One thing that's interesting to me about these different technologies is that you can use many different languages and frameworks to implement each part of the stack. So you could have the UI built in JavaScript and HTML using a certain framework like Angular or React or Vue. And it could be contacting an API that's written in any one of a number of different languages, such as Python or C# or Java. And they could be contacting a database that's, it could be a SQL database, it could be a NoSQL database. It really doesn't matter. Once these things are built, if they're built correctly, the language that is used and the technology that is used to build each little piece shouldn't matter, because they're all contacting each other through the HTTP protocol. And we can dive more into that at another time. But if you're stuck and not sure what to learn, don't worry about it. Go ahead and dive in with a language that interests you. And if you want to start learning one and down the line you figure out that you need to learn something else, that's okay, because mostly the skills that you've learned in the one language will transfer to the new language you want to learn. Every language that we use these days is going to have, decisions and loops and data structures and primitives, and knowing one language is going to really help you translate to another language. You'll be like, oh, this thing over here is like that, but a little different. And by and large, syntax is easy to look up. It's the concepts and understanding how to apply basic programming concepts that are going to be really important. Syntax is just a couple of clicks away. So that's it on full stack web development, and I hope that helps. Cheers.